everybody, welcome to The Take. I'm your host Krishna Mano, and today let's talk about apples. The first apple was grown in the lush hills of... Are we actually doing a whole episode on apples? We're not? Whew. We're actually looking at something that is the exact opposite of apples. It isn't sweet, it isn't refreshing, and it certainly does not keep the doctor away. Student loans. Everything about them, how they started, how they evolved, and where we are now. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's dive deep into student loans. The history of student loans stretches all the way back to the year 1240, and things didn't look very promising even then. Students pursuing higher education at Oxford University had to deposit their most valuable possessions, ranging from precious metal cutlery to handmade animal skin books, in order to secure funding. And I know I'm not an expert at fashionable trends in the 13th century, but I am quite sure that books made out of animal skin doesn't sound very exciting or economically sustainable. But if we jump around 600 years later, Harvard University began providing zero-interest loans in 1838. So students just took these loans, absorbed as much information their brains could handle, and then paid back how much ever they took in the first place. But once Harvard figured out that they really weren't profiting from this idea, they decided to put it to an end. This only resulted in less incentive for students to pursue a higher education. About 100 years later, in 1944, as the US was bringing World War II to a close, they had to come up with an idea to employ all of the soldiers who didn't get a chance to continue on to college because they were deployed to fight in the war. To resolve this, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, or GI Bill, into law. The main parts of this law was to establish hospitals, make low-interest mortgages available, and to give veterans up to $500 per school year to cover their new or ongoing education. These benefits were extended to Korean War veterans with the 1952 Veterans Readjustment Assistance Act. Different wars, same law. But as helpful as it was, there's empirical evidence that it caused negative effects. According to Cornell University, the GI Bill, at least in part, contributed to diminished attainment of females in higher education during the post-war era. Furthermore, as the New York Times points out, the GI Bill was first promoted as race-neutral, but out of the 6,583 non-agricultural jobs filled in Mississippi by GI Bill job counselors, 86% of the professional, skilled, and semi-skilled positions went to whites, while 92% of the unskilled and service sector jobs went to African Americans. Like everything, this successful bill also had a good share of flaws, in the form of oppression of minorities. Then, in 1957, educational loans became a full-scale government-run idea, almost like a necessity to continue on to college. This is all surprisingly because of the space race and the Soviet Union's orbiting satellite, Sputnik. And you might be confused about how those two are connected, and to be honest, I thought it was pretty crazy too. But if you really think about it, it does piece together. The first student loan program in America was created because the US was losing the space race. On October 6, 1957, the Soviet Union successfully launched Sputnik, the first man-made satellite. When the US saw that another country had beat them to the draw, they felt like they weren't using its full potential in education. This pushed them to make it easier for students to continue learning, even if it meant making a whole new process for college tuition, and overall, the Soviets were probably pretty confused as well.
Generals, please gather around the table. I had a question for you all. Should we go through with the Sputnik mission? It is quite very expensive.
Sir, with all due respect, I really do believe we should go on with the mission. It will show the United States and the rest of the countries how much of a superpower the Soviet Union is. It will show them that we are more powerful than them all. And trust me, I didn't get these 4 stars for nothing. I know, sir, I know.
I am proud of your reasoning. So be it.
And literally 5 minutes after mission was declared a success, America realized that they were not getting good results in the science and technology field because they were not putting effort into education. So they passed a new bill, the National Defense Education Act of 1958, which was a booming success. In the matter of 10 years, from 1959 to 1969, the number of college students doubled from 3.6 million to 7.5 million. The following footage is a Soviet general's response to learning about the act.
Sir, this is Squadron Leader Gregovich. We have a new message. It says that apparently America has passed a new bill.
To do what?
It apparently helps educate their youth.
How so very confusing. Over the years, the government kept making more and more programs and signed lots of legislation for education, which led to the creation of the Student Loan Marketing Association, also known as Sallie Mae, in 1973 to service these loans. And now, the question is, why have student loans become such a problem? Before we discuss this, here's a quick statistic that will blow your mind. In 2006, college students in the US were in debt by just $481 billion. But now, in 2021, that number is a staggering $1.7 trillion, encompassing 44 million Americans. That is to say, in order to forgive all of the United States student debt, it would take the entire wealth of the 20 richest individuals worldwide. But how did this problem become so bad? It is clear that the student debt industry has no intention of helping students. It only exists for the benefit and profit of these multi-billion-dollar private companies. And the main reason for why student loans are so hard is because of the way they are managed. For years, the government partnered with banks for student loans, so the government was accountable for anything that happened. That changed in 2010, when President Barack Obama stopped the banks from being the middlemen. This resulted in 1, students getting loans directly from the government, and 2, the popularity of the Department of Education's banking sector increased. And at one point, this department became the largest bank in terms of loans in all of America, which shows how many students relied on loans. And no, that doesn't make any sense. Imagine if someone told you that Harry Potter is now joining forces with Darth Vader. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other, and they shouldn't really be meddling in each other's business. As you might have guessed, the government wasn't prepared to be a bank, so what they did was they gave the job to other companies, referred to as loan servicers. Now these people have to handle questions about loans, repayment dates, and everything else having to do with loans. But do they really? The unfortunate truth is no, they don't. Some of these loan servicers, the most famous being Navient, who handles 1/4 of all American student borrowers, have been caught overcharging active members of the military, damaging the credit of disabled loan borrowers, or if they find out you have 2 banking accounts, they sometimes take double the amount you owe. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a government agency, Navient made $4 billion just through interest that they collected from loan borrowers in 2019. This whole scheme is almost as if a doctor diagnoses you with diabetes and then prescribes you 2 liters of Coke and a butterscotch cream-filled donut a day. It's supposed to help you, but does exactly the opposite. In a nutshell, student loans are loans that people take when they're looking for money to pursue further education. It was created to help people but ends up hurting people as well. The problem falls on both loan servicers, who are predatory companies only seeking profit, and on the Department of Education for hiring these unhelpful loan servicers. At the end of the day, it is up to us to try and avoid these people as much as possible, because if we don't, we will lose our money, our cars, our houses, and if you have one, even your animal skin books. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week, and until then, as always, read the news.